Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Now, obviously, we're coming up on Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. Both holidays are rooted in spirits, the afterlife, and the question humans have asked since the beginning of time. What happens when we leave this earth? What happens when we die? Ancient Egyptians saw death as a transition to an eternal afterlife, burying themselves with treasures they hoped to use beyond the grave. Other cultures believe death was a return to nature or a reunion with the spirit world. For many people of faith, death is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of something eternal. With that said, losing a loved one is still extremely hard. Our guest today helps people connect with those who have crossed over and helps the living find peace, comfort, and closure after loss.
I'm getting a mail coming through. My lungs are filling up with fluid. Now that could be pneumonia, congestive heart failure. You're nodding yes. Does that make sense?
He was sick for about a year.
She keeps talking about you and the pearls of wisdom.
He's been saying pearls of wisdom a lot lately, saying he has to hold his pearls of wisdom because people might not be ready for them.
That's what I call a verifiable fact following a message. You gave him permission to let go.
I did.
Yes, and he's acknowledging that and thanking you for it. He said, "That's my girl."
The psychic lawyer Mark Anthony is the author of Never Letting Go, Evidence of Eternity, and the Afterlife Frequency. He also hosts seminars bringing comfort and understanding to people grieving the loss of loved ones. He'll help our studio audience make those connections today. Good morning and welcome back to Great Day Houston.
Thank you, Deborah. It's always an honor to be here in Houston, and I love being here to work with you and help all these folks.
All right. I know a lot of this starts out, people watching at home, like feeling like it's sad, but by the end of this, people are like, oh, thank you, a weight has been lifted. All right, let's start with, I said since the beginning of time, human beings have tried to understand what happens when people die. Halloween's rooted in that.
Halloween is because initially it was a harvest festival in the British Isles in northern France, the Celtic culture. Mm-hmm. And as Christianity began to seep in, there was a melding of the holiday, because Halloween actually means All Hallows Eve. And hallows are saints. They're holy people. And in the Catholic and Greek Orthodox faiths, November 1st is All Saints Day. Mm-hmm. So All Hallows Eve is the day before that.
Yeah.
So it became a celebration of our loved ones who have crossed into the light.
And then turned into costumes with Disney characters at some point, right?
It did. Well, yeah, the origins of trick-or-treat are really fascinating because in Druid and Celtic Britain, people felt that on the harvest, on All Hallows Eve, that spirits would rise up and that all the spirits weren't always friendly ones. So people would carve scary faces in gourds and put them out in front of their houses. And young men would dress up in animal skins with scary masks to walk around and frighten the evil spirits. And so grateful people would give them these little sweet cakes. And so that's where the idea of trick-or-treat came. And then in France and the rest of Europe, including Britain, gargoyles were created on cathedrals, not because they're negative, because they were supposed to be the bouncers. They're going to scare away the spirits. And so over the centuries, this became a custom which has led to the modern-day celebration of Halloween and also Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah. Speaking of, around the world, we are in such conflict over death. I started my early years in Taipei, Taiwan, and it was interesting because when someone would pass away, they had the biggest party ever. And we're like, okay, they're all laughing and singing and having a good time. I moved to the United States, everybody was crying and, rightfully so, but it was a different way of looking at it. And Dia de los Muertos really celebrates somebody's life. And that's, have you been to Mexico where you've seen those, now you see it here, but you would see like a skeleton with wedding gowns on or a skeleton on a motorcycle, and you're thinking, what's going on here? But that was the deal. They wanted to show them, although they've passed over, celebrate and show them what they were like in life.
Exactly. And when the Spanish colonized Central and South America, the Catholic religion came face to face with the Day of the Dead. And over the centuries, they reached a compromise to accommodate. The Catholic Church made All Souls Day, which is November 2nd, right after All Saints Day, which is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, so that the two faiths and belief systems could harmonize and essentially celebrate the same thing, which is that our loved ones haven't died in the complete sense. Yes, when we physically die, our body stops working, but our soul, our life force, the who and what we are, lives on.
Yeah, and this is something that you thought everybody understood. Even as a kid, you're like, you saw people, and you thought, doesn't everybody see people?
Yeah, I grew up in a family of mediums. Both my parents had these abilities. My mom was a commercial illustrator and fashion designer. My dad had been a Navy SEAL, and then he was an aerospace engineer. Okay, so we were a pretty serious, all-American type of family. And it's funny in a way, because after my mom passed, it was standing room only at her service, and so many people said, you know, we all knew that your family was kind of odd, and a friend of mine said, we you know, you guys were like the Addams family, but you were kind of cool, you know. So everybody knew about us, you know, but we weren't real open about our mediumistic abilities. Not at that time. When I went public.
All right. So tell us, like, we're in a room right now, and I can count the people that I see. But are you feeling or seeing? What is it you actually see?
Well, since we've been here, I'm feeling a lot of spirits coming in, which is not unusual for me, but I am picking up on a couple very distinct spirits.
Yeah. And then how they communicate with you. I know you spoke with our audience earlier, but for people at home to get an idea, how they communicate with you is not necessarily having a full-on conversation with you, right? It's not the way that we have conversations.
Correct. You know, people always say, well, why don't they just tell you? They are telling me. You got to realize that in my book, The Afterlife Frequency, I introduced the concept known as the electromagnetic soul, the EMS. And what that explains is that on the subatomic level, we're all made of particles known as a quantum. And that's where the term quantum physics comes from. And according to Einstein's theory of relativity, everything on the quantum level makes up the material universe. So that's you, me, the chairs we're sitting in, the radio waves this show's being broadcast on, the light of the sun, the rings of Saturn and beyond are all electromagnetic energy. And so our brain is like a computer hard drive. And it did not create our EMS, our electromagnetic soul, which is our consciousness, the who and what we are. It merely hosts it. So when the brain/hard drive crashes, in other words, when we physically die, the energy of our soul continues on. And so what spirits do is they're emitting an EM impulse, an electromagnetic impulse into my brain, and that gets converted into recognizable concepts based on my memories, feelings, and cultural associations. So that's why I say I'm seeing a symbol this or I'm smelling that.
And it has meaning.
It has meaning.
All right, you recently were at the Omega Institute's Wisdom Beyond the Veil. What was that?
The Omega Institute, fascinating organization in Upper State in Rhinebeck, New York. And I was with a couple other of my colleagues, and it was a weekend seminar where we're explaining the different facets of spirit communication. I did a spirit communication gallery event, plus a talk entitled The Healing Power of Spirit Communication from Earth to Eternity. And then in August, I was at the International Association for Near-Death Studies. That was their 50th anniversary conference, and it was the 50th anniversary of Dr. Raymond Moody, who developed the term near-death experience, and he was there.
Oh, wow.
And it was really great because he's the Albert Einstein of near-death experience research, and being able to be on stage and give this presentation and talk directly to Dr. Raymond Moody and thank him. Deborah, that had to be, that was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.